Today I'm going to talk about whether Jesus was really a man and how I got it wrong in the past. Hi, my name is Andrew Kim and this is Theology 101. This channel exists to explain theology concepts in everyday language. If this is your first time watching, please subscribe so that you can be notified of any future videos that I release. Okay, now let's jump into today's topic. Today I'm going to talk about Jesus' incarnation. The incarnation is the belief that Jesus came in human flesh. The easiest way I like to remember this is I love carne asada tacos. And incarnation, carne is meat. This is Jesus taking on meat. There are many verses that talk about Jesus' incarnation, but today I just want to focus on one passage. And this passage is Philippians chapter 2, verses 6 through 8. Though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men, and being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. The key word to understand the incarnation in this passage is the word form. If you notice, the Apostle Paul contrasts Jesus being in the form of God and being in the form of a servant. What does it mean that Jesus existed in the form of God and then came in the form of a servant? Now, some people think that this means that Jesus gave up his divinity and no longer was God when he became a man. Apostle Paul didn't say form of God, but that Jesus was in the form of God. And so what does the word form mean? The word form in this context has the idea of position. And so Jesus was in the position of God because he is equal to God. He held the same power and authority as God. He wasn't less than God. He is equal to God the Father in every way. And so when Jesus became a man, he didn't give up his divinity, but he gave up his form or position as God in order to take on the form or position of a man. Think about it this way. The President of the United States holds a certain form or position. In this position, he holds certain privileges, certain rights, and certain influence that he normally doesn't have. But at the end of his term, the president is the same man or woman, the same person, but he or she must now give up this position and all the powers and rights and privileges that come with it. This is what Paul means when he says that Jesus emptied himself. He didn't empty himself of his divinity. He still remained the same person. The difference is that he gave up his position as God, the rights and prerogatives that he had as God. In fact, notice that the Apostle Paul says that the way Jesus emptied himself is by taking on the form of a servant. In other words, Jesus emptied himself by adding on something to himself, namely humanity. Imagine you see a perfect red Ferrari, but then imagine someone brings 10 buckets of mud and just pours all over the Ferrari. Because of the mud, you can't even see the Ferrari anymore. Although the Ferrari remains the same, now you can't see all its glory. And that's what Jesus did. By becoming a man, he put on the mud of humanity so that we couldn't see his divinity and all his glory, but he still was the same person. During his time on earth, Jesus remained God. However, he experienced a full spectrum of humanity. He experienced everything a human or a man would experience. He was born like any other person. He grew up physically, both in stature and wisdom, like any other person. He was hungry. He was tired and slept. He cried. He got thirsty. And he was even tempted to sin, although the big difference is that he never fell into sin like we do. Jesus didn't just pretend to be human and pretend he was hungry. He really was, because he was fully man. Now, let me tell you how I got this wrong in the past. I believe that it was unreal. In other words, I didn't think Jesus was really a man. It's almost like I thought he was an actor pretending to be a man, but he had this God switch that he could just turn on. And so when he was hungry, he could just turn on that switch. Oh, I'm not hungry anymore or something like that. But that is not what the Bible teaches. This view is a heresy. Heresy meaning any belief that contradicts Christian orthodoxy. You see, this view is actually called Docetism. Docetism comes from the Greek word dokeo, which means to appear. And this belief is that Jesus just appeared to be a man. This is a completely wrong view of Jesus' humanity because it undermines the fact that he was fully man. There was a second way that I got Jesus' incarnation wrong, and that is the belief that Jesus' incarnation was incomplete. This view is actually heretical as well, and this view is called Apollinarianism. Apollinarianism says that Jesus outside was human, so he did have a human body, but that Jesus' inside or his spirit or soul remained divine. It's almost like he was half God, half man. God inside, man outside. The easiest way I remember this is to think of Apollo 13, of an astronaut suit. Jesus wore this space suit that was humanity, but his insides, his soul still remained divine. But again, this is a completely wrong view of Jesus' incarnation because it undermines his humanity. Jesus wasn't half man, half God, and Jesus wasn't just acting like a man. Jesus was fully man. And so today, I hope you learned something from this video about Jesus' incarnation, that when he became a man, he didn't give up being God, but he gave up the position. By being a man, he was fully man. He wasn't half man, half God, or just looked like a man. Now, if you're wondering why the incarnation matters for Christians today, please subscribe because that is a topic I will talk about in an upcoming video. Please leave a comment if you have any questions or topics you would like for me to cover. And until next time, see you.